Welcome to Max Premieres. Today we have a list that covers absolutely every taste. Classic action, gothic horror, pirates, historical drama, zombies, science fiction, and even one of those romantic comedies you watch already knowing exactly what will happen and still end up enjoying it. These are 15 new films ranked from worst to best based on a blend of what critics said and what audiences felt, so even the films in the lower positions have something to offer. But before we begin, it would help me a lot if you took a moment to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your kind support. Number 15. Hellfire. The town of Rondo lives in fear. A powerful crime syndicate controlled by the ruthless Jeremiah has turned its residents into pawns in a drug operation, and corrupt Sheriff Wiley, played by Dolph Lundgren, makes sure no one dares to speak up. Then one day, a mysterious drifter arrives, a former Green Beret with a dark past and very little left to lose, and something in that broken town tells him he cannot keep walking away. The stranger, played by Stephen Lang, quickly clashes with Jeremiah and his men. What follows is a series of increasingly intense physical confrontations as the newcomer becomes the only hope for a community that had long forgotten what it felt like to have someone in their corner. Hellfire is old-school action cinema with a southern setting. No pretensions and no frills. Isaac Florentine, a director known for genuinely physical fight sequences, knows exactly what kind of film he is making. The problem is that the script does not match the ambitions. Characters are flat, the plot is predictable from the opening scene, and Harvey Keitel barely registers despite top billing. It works as background entertainment for a low-demand afternoon, but nothing more. Number 14. Kraken. In the community of Vangsnes, nestled beside one of Norway's deepest fjords, strange things begin happening that no one can explain. Johan, a marine biologist researching a fish farm in the area, is called in to investigate the brutal deaths of two local teenagers. Every clue points to the same place, the depths of the fjord, where Norse legend says an ancestral creature as large as a mountain sleeps, with dozens of tentacles capable of crushing anything they grasp. As the strange phenomena multiply and danger literally rises from the water, Johan must decipher what she is facing before the monster devastates everything on the surface. Kraken has perfect material for a great Scandinavian monster film, with Nordic folklore as its foundation and the fjords as a backdrop for genuine dread. Director Paul Uwe knows how to build tension, and a limited budget forces the film to use the creature wisely. But the screenplay is where it falters. The characters lack depth, the cast chemistry does not convince, and AI-generated visual effects undermine the film's key moments. The Norwegian industry has produced better creature features, and this one falls short of Troll. Number 13. The Dreadful. In 15th century England during the Wars of the Roses, Anne lives a harsh and austere existence on the margins of society alongside her mother-in-law Morwen, a woman who has mastered the art of manipulation and survival. When a man from Anne's past returns from the war with news of her husband's death, the two women are pulled into a spiral of secrets, curses, and a mounting psychological dread that grows from within. Natasha Kermani writes and directs this reinterpretation of the same parable that inspired the Japanese classic Onibaba from 1964, betting on dense atmospheric horror and character tension over jump scares. The Dreadful has its strengths. The photography shot in Cornwall is genuinely unsettling, the score builds tension efficiently, and Marcia Gay Harden delivers a performance that at times is the only thing keeping the film from sinking. Sophie Turner and Kit Harington, who played siblings in Game of Thrones, have openly admitted feeling uncomfortable playing lovers here, and that discomfort translates to the screen. The slow pace can work in gothic horror, but the screenplay lacks the force to sustain the weight. Number 12. Mercy. In the year 2029, Los Angeles has no traditional courts. The Mercy Court system, powered by artificial intelligence, replaced judges and juries with cold, supposedly impartial logic. The accused has 90 minutes to prove innocence before an AI judge, or the chair they are strapped to delivers execution via a sonic blast. No appeals, no delays. Chris Raven, the detective who helped build that system, now becomes his own test subject. Accused of murdering his wife, strapped to the chair with the clock running, he must use every digital resource available to discover who is framing him and why. Rebecca Ferguson plays AI Judge Maddox cold and calculating, while the plot escalates toward a conspiracy that goes far beyond the case. Mercy has a genuinely interesting premise, and Chris Pratt proves he can carry a more serious thriller than his usual register. But the screenplay pulls that premise in too many directions at once, stacks twists that demand too much suspension of disbelief, and ends up being less intelligent than it promises. Critics were harsh, though audiences found it considerably more entertaining than the official numbers might suggest. Number 11. Greenland 2: Migration. 5 years have passed since the Clark comet devastated the Earth. The Garrity family survived the impact by taking shelter in the Greenland bunkers, but the relative safety of that refuge has reached its limits. Resources are running out, tensions inside the bunker are exploding, and John Garrity, played by Gerard Butler, understands that staying put is no longer an option. With his wife Allison, Morena Baccarin, and their son Nathan, the family begins a desperate journey across a devastated European continent covered in ice, radiation, and survivors who will do anything to stay alive. The road is brutal, and every kilometer raises the same question: is there anywhere left where hope still makes sense? Rick Romanois returns with a sequel that was unfortunately not justified. The first film worked because of its contained tension and human scale. This installment replaces that with empty spectacle and unconvincing visual effects. Gerard Butler and Morena Baccarin give everything the script allows them, which is not much. For fans of no-pretense disaster films, it may entertain. For those who love the original, the disappointment is inevitable. Number 10. Fuck Valentine's Day. Gina hates February 14th, not only because the whole world turns it into a mandatory love circus, but also because it is her birthday, which means everyone always mashes the two gifts together or simply forgets one of them entirely. When her boyfriend starts dropping obvious hints that a marriage proposal is coming, Gina does what anyone with her particular brand of panic would do. She puts an ocean between them and escapes to Greece. What she did not plan for is that her proposal avoidance scheme is about to get complicated by Johnny, a pizza delivery guy she accidentally crossed paths with weeks earlier, and his sister Mickey, a duo that quickly becomes the perfectly chaotic accomplice in everything Gina had planned to sabotage. Straightforward, predictable, and with genuinely funny moments, F times CK. Valentine's Day is exactly the streaming romantic comedy it sets out to be without pretending to be anything more. Virginia Gardner carries the film with energy, and Marisa Tomei elevates every scene she is in. The problem is that the script relies too heavily on a protagonist who is hard to root for, and situations that feel more forced than organic. For a low-demand Valentine's evening, it delivers. Number 9. Shelter. Mason decided to disappear from the world. A former MI6 elite operative declared killed in action. He lives alone on a remote Scottish island with nothing but the sea, the silence, and a loyal dog for company. That isolation works until a violent storm leaves a young, shipwrecked girl on his shore. Mason rescues her because that is how he is built. But that single act of kindness is enough for his location to be discovered by the enemies he has spent years avoiding. What follows is a spiral of pursuit, protection, and a physical duel that Mason wages not only against his former intelligence colleagues, but also against the version of himself he had tried to leave behind forever. Rick Romanois, who has worked with Statham before, knows exactly what kind of film he is building and executes it with craft. Shelter invents nothing new in the genre, but it has something many current action films lose: physical authenticity. The fights feel real, the photography of the Scottish and Irish islands adds genuine visual weight, and Statham does what he does best, transmitting the sense that the danger is real. A solid film that genre fans will enjoy without regret. Number 8. War Machine. Number 81 lost his brother in Afghanistan, and that loss never left him. To close that chapter in his own way, he enrolls in the selection process for the Army Rangers, the most demanding special operations unit in the United States, determined to go where his brother could not. The training is brutal, the group around him is as diverse as it is unpredictable, and the physical and mental demands seem designed to break anyone. But when the group reaches the final phase of selection deep in the wilderness, they discover something no manual prepared them for: a high-tech killing machine with runaway artificial intelligence, capable of eliminating any human being with terrifying efficiency. In an instant, the most demanding training exercise of their lives becomes a real war against a threat that does not negotiate and never rests. Patrick Hughes, director of The Hitman's Bodyguard, delivers an honest action film that does not pretend to be more than it is. Alan Ritchson has here the ideal vehicle for his physical presence, quiet, powerful, and effective. On-location photography in Australia and New Zealand gives the confrontations genuine weight, and the blend of military training with science fiction threat works better than it sounds on paper. It is not Predator, but it never claims to be. Number 7. Dead Man's Wire. On February 8, 1977, Tony Karitsis walked into the offices of Meridian Mortgage in Indianapolis with a box under his arm and a mix of desperation and determination that left no room for turning back. What was in that box was a sawed-off shotgun and several feet of wire. Within minutes, he had connected the weapon to the neck of executive Richard Hall in such a way that any attempt to shoot him would also fire the gun. Then he walked out into the street. What followed was 63 hours, one hostage, one man on the edge of everything, an entire city watching live on television, and a radio journalist who unexpectedly became the thread that kept the situation on the side of survival. Gus Van Sant adapts this real case with the same critical energy of Dog Day Afternoon, Sidney Lumet's classic to which this film owes much. Bill Skarsgård delivers a performance that carries the full complexity of a man who could be a villain or simply someone the system ground down in the wrong way. Dacre Montgomery holds the tension well as the hostage, and Coleman Domingo shines as the journalist. Where the film falters is in its middle section, too long in the apartment, too little progression. But those with patience for that rhythm will find something genuinely unsettling. Number 6. Unexpected Family. Zhang Bufan is a young man with no direction who flees his hometown, hoping to reach Beijing and find something he cannot yet name. Along the way, circumstances bring him into contact with Ren Jiqing, an elderly man in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's, who mistakes him for his estranged son. With no money and no options, Bufan agrees to play along for a while, not imagining that the while will stretch far longer than planned. Under the same roof live other characters equally adrift in their own lives, and what begins as a misunderstanding slowly transforms into something that looks suspiciously like a real family. What makes this film memorable is Jackie Chan. Far from the acrobatics and physical comedy that defined him for decades, he delivers a performance of vulnerability that is genuinely moving. The confusion, the sudden moments of clarity, the unconditional love for a son he can no longer quite remember, all without exaggeration. The script has its weak points and the secondary characters' stories scatter, but the central relationship between Bufan and Ren is enough to sustain the entire film and leave you feeling something you did not expect to feel. Number 5. The Bluff. In the 19th century Cayman Islands, Ursula Baden lives quietly, raising her son and waiting for her sailor husband to return. What her family does not know is that before that peaceful life, Ursula was known across the Caribbean as Bloody Mary, one of the most feared and lethal pirates on the sea. That buried past arrives all at once when her former companion and Captain Connor, played by Carl Urban, appears on the island thirsty for revenge and with his eyes set on a lost treasure that connects directly to their shared history. When Connor attacks the island and puts her family in immediate danger, Ursula has no other way out. She must become who she once was. Priyanka Chopra Jonas carries this film on her shoulders and does so with a physical and emotional commitment that genuinely convinces. The combat choreography has a rawness reminiscent of the first John Wick. No ornament, pure impact. Carl Urban, as always, knows how to build a villain you enjoy hating. Produced by the Russo brothers, The Bluff has ambition and budget. Critics were cooler than audiences because the film sometimes loses itself between spectacle and unnecessary darkness. But as an action thriller with a family heart, it more than delivers. Number 4. Scream 7. Sidney Prescott managed to build something resembling a normal life. A new town, a new name, a teenage daughter named Tatum she protects with everything she has. But Ghostface never disappears, and when the killer reappears with his eyes fixed directly on Tatum, Sidney realizes that no matter how many times she tries to escape her past always finds her first. Kevin Williamson, the original creator of the franchise, returns to the director's chair for this installment that also brings back Neve Campbell in the role that defined her, and Courtney Cox as the indestructible Gale Weathers. Isabel May plays Tatum, the new generation that must face a killer who seems to know every move the Prescott family makes. Scream 7 does what the franchise does well. It keeps the meta self-awareness game going, rewards legacy fans with connections that feel earned, and builds genuine tension before each confrontation. Williamson's return shows in how carefully he handles Sydney, giving her real emotional weight instead of using her as simple fan service. It is not the best entry in the saga, but for those who have been with this story for decades, seeing her back on the big screen is absolutely worth it. Number 2. The Coral. It is 1916 and World War I is pulling men away from the fictional town of Ramsden, Yorkshire. The local choral society, which has lost most of its male members to conscription, refuses to give up. Instead of closing, they recruit young men on the threshold of enlistment and search for a new director. Their choice falls on Dr. Henry Guthrie, played by Ralph Fiennes' brilliant, demanding, recently returned from Germany, and carrying secrets that in wartime can quickly become accusations. The piece they choose to unite around is The Dream of Gerontius by Edward Elgar, selected deliberately because it was not composed by a German, an artistic gesture that is also a quiet declaration of resistance. Nicholas Heitner and playwright Alan Bennett built a film that is, at its core, about why we sing together when everything is falling apart. Ralph Fiennes is in a state of grace, restrained, without ornament, deeply human. The film has the elegance and quiet humor that characterizes the best British period cinema, though some secondary characters do not receive the space they deserve. For those with patience who enjoy textured historical drama, this is a discreet gem worth far more than its box office numbers suggest. Number 1. Kill Bill. The Whole Bloody Affair. The bride was betrayed on her wedding day. Bill, her mentor, lover, and the father of her child ordered the massacre of everyone present and left her for dead with a bullet to the head. 4 years later, she wakes from a coma with a single purpose: to find every member of the Deadly Viper assassination squad and Bill himself, one by one, city by city, no matter how many fall along the way. Quentin Tarantino conceived Kill Bill as a single film from the beginning, but the footage was so enormous that Miramax split it into 2 parts in 2023 and 2024. Now, more than 2 decades later, The Whole Bloody Affair arrives in its definitive form. 4 hours and 41 minutes of stylized fury, including an extended anime sequence, scenes now presented in color that were previously in black and white, and brand new footage never before seen in cinemas. This is not a movie. It is a statement about what action cinema can achieve when it has vision, ambition, and a lead like Uma Thurman willing to carry the full weight. The reception was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and an 8.8 on IMDb. Watching it in its complete form, with the intermission included, is an experience you do not forget. Tarantino's greatest film is also, at last, the film it was always meant to be. And that wraps up this top 15. There is something for everyone on this list, from those that audiences love despite critical doubts, to an absolute gem that spent over 2 decades waiting to be seen the right way. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss our upcoming content. The question to take with you: how many of these were already on your to-watch list? Let us know in the comments. That is where the conversation really gets good.